Alright, so a couple of months ago, the brand new Despicable Me movie, Despicable Me 4, has released in the theaters. It's been a crazy couple of months, so today I am finally going to rank all 6 Despicable Me movies. Alright, so the Despicable Me franchise is a fascinating one for me. I grew up watching the first 2 movies. Every time there's a new movie, me and my family go see it in the theaters. And that's the same thing that happened with Despicable Me 4. But ever since Despicable Me 3, and Minions, specifically Minions, the franchise has kind of just been at a all-time low for me, because first 2 movies are classics, but I don't fully feel like we've gotten a good other Despicable Me movies since then, and it just feels really frustrating. Real quick before I give you my ranking, I'm going to let you guys know that this is going to be kind of a quicker video. The movie came out several months ago, but it's just been crazy couple of months. End of summer, bunch of other movies come out, bunch of other rankings I had to do. I had to prepare for the X-Men, and I had to do reviews, rankings, all of that, and I just didn't have time to film a review for, or a ranking of the Despicable Me movies. So that's why I am here. Also, stay tuned for the next couple of days. If you're interested, I'm going to have an Alien franchise ranking out on my channel. That will be coming in the next couple of days in a whole summer 2024 movies tier list rank video. All of those videos are coming out. What is your ranking of the Despicable Me movies? And with that said, let's get started with number 6, my last place, and I'm going with Minions, the worst Despicable Me movie by quite a bit. It's not very good. I'm planning on rewatching this one and Minions 2, rather. And I did not get along to watching Minions 2 because I just did not have that much fun with this one. This movie has solid parts. There are sequences that are fun. There are some funny things. The Minions are genuinely funny characters. But the whole story here doesn't have a story set for the Minions. The cool idea is going off to find the boss that you need, and that's a cool premise. What do you do with that? You introduce a generic villain in Scarlet Overkill. She gets superpowers in the end. You have the big battle in the end. The whole movie with big battles and just stuff to keep kids entertained. And for me, a 18-year-old male, rewatching this movie, I didn't have as much fun as I could have. And even like back when it first came out, I just could not have as much fun. Because you don't have the lively characters of Gru, Lucy, the daughters. You don't have all that. All you have is the Minions, goofy characters goofing around with the bad guys. And the story is bland and generic as always. Especially rewatching this. There were some fun parts to it. But there were some fun scenes that made me laugh. But overall, as a whole, the movie is just kind of generic and just boring. And quite frankly, my brother, I fell asleep in the middle of the movie, so I went to bed and he didn't even finish the movie. It's just boring, it's generic, and it doesn't live up to what the actual Despicable Me movies can be. And along those same lines, number 5, Minions: The Rise of Gru. This is a movie that I had enough fun with it back in 2022. I remember watching it and thinking, yeah, there's a bit more charm to this one, but it's also forgettable. I barely remember who the villain is. Actually, I don't think I remember who the villain is at all, honestly. I remember that it was better because Gru is in this movie. You have a more likable character in the mix there. There's a fun sequence. The whole karate sequence was really fun. There's obviously has all the charm that the Minions can bring, the charm that they brought to the first Minions. But the 2 Minions movies are just movies I don't like revisiting because they're just boring to me. It's just a bunch of goofy, stupid hijinks in another generic Despicable Me story without the characters that we love. And this movie has some of the characters that we love. That's what enhances it over the original. But honestly, I think it's a little more generic as well compared to the original. Like, in the original, even before rewatching it, I remember the villain. I know who Scarlet Overkill is. But right now, I can't even remember who the villain in this movie is, because it was just generic, and I couldn't care less. There were some fun sequences in here, yes. Gru, nice addition to this movie. But are these 2 Minions movies that I'll ever go back and revisit? No. And especially now, after Despicable Me 4 and doing my ranking here, if there's ever another Despicable Me movie, which there probably will be because Despicable Me 4 made bank, I don't know if I'd ever go back and revisit the 2 Minions movies because I just don't like them. I just find them generic and quite frankly boring. Number 4, onto the meat and bones of the video, I am personally going to go with Despicable Me 3. I do enjoy Despicable Me 3. I enjoy some aspects about it, but normally it's just kind of a generic movie. It's really just a generic Despicable Me movies, where you have those first 2 movies, iconic story, at least for my childhood it was, and then we get Despicable Me 3, where me and my mom and my brother went to the movies. I remember this, and the main thought that we had walking out of it was, that kind of reminded us of any other animated movie. The trailer showed quite a bit of the movie. It's generic. I kind of knew where that was going the whole time. And so even rewatching it, I just never have enough fun with this movie as much as I have with the first 2 specifically. I just never enjoyed the movie as much. Yes, the brother is a nice addition to here. There are some fun moments in here. The heist sequence is fun. Balthazar Brat, I think, is a cool enough villain. But, and then when we get to the 3rd act, obviously his whole plan is be in a giant robo-suit and go off and destroy things. I don't know why, but ever since Minions, almost every single one of the finales in these movies are giant robo-suit that the heroes have to stop. I am not making this up, and it is beyond annoying. It is really, really annoying, I think, that all of the villains are giant robots. It's like the DCEU and demon bad guys. It's crazy, that amount. So the movie is more generic than the others. It's watchable. I'd rather rewatch this one any day over Despicable, or the Minions movies, rather. But out of all of the Despicable Me franchise and the Despicable Me mainline films, it is my least favorite out of those. Number 3, I'm going with Despicable Me 4. Now, this movie was fun enough when it did not focus on the story. When it focused on the story, just as generic, just as boring as any of the other movies that we've talked about so far. Obviously, we got the villain. He doesn't like Gru, because who likes Gru at this point? They fight, something bad happens in the end, and guess what? He gets in a giant robotic bug to fight Gru. Boring. We've seen it before, several thousand times before by now, I guess. And it's just very generic and boring. But these are characters that I do like. I like Gru, Lucy, the 3 daughters. I think the Minions can have some fun here. The addition of Gru and having a child is fun. So when it doesn't focus on the story, when it's just with our characters doing goofy things, in the supermarket being chased by a crazy woman, the Minions getting superpowers, which did not work well at all in the 3rd act, but it was a fun sequence enough. Gru and Lucy going to go play tennis. It has some fun. It's watchable. Yes, it's generic. Yes, the story is generic. But going into it and hearing all of the bad reviews, this was on my most anticipated list of the year, only because I thought the trailer kind of brought back a little of the vibe of the original movies. Doesn't have that vibe at all. But I after all the reviews, I thought it would be really boring. I thought I would just be bored, and I had enough fun with that. The story, generic, boring, and not good. But there was enough fun to be had here. In 2nd place, and I'm going to have to go with the movie that I rewatched the most, that means more to me than the first movie. Or than number 1. Yeah, I just kind of spoiled it. I was trying to do something cool there. Number 2, I'm going with Despicable Me 2. And yes, I did watch this more as a child. I do have fonder memories of watching this movie. I do remember that this was the movie that me and my brother always turned on, and that we both genuinely really liked. And I do still like this movie. I really like the villain here. The introduction to the romance of Gru and Lucy really, really works. I think that those two have great chemistry on screen together. And that aspect bringing in here kind of has a nice vibe to it. Especially with, like, near we get to the end and you're trying to figure out all the romance stuff. There are some fun sequences in there. Very fun sequences. Again, the purple minions, the villain plot, I think is unique and interesting. And overall, the movie, it just helps out that it means more to me. It means more to me that I watched this over and over again. And I had so much fun each and every time I watched the movie because you love the characters. It has a nice addition of a romantic interest between Gru and Lucy. And it's just an overall solid sequel to the original. I really do like this movie. And I do personally think that I like it better than my number one, which obviously is the first movie. But I do feel like the first movie, and this brings us to our number one, which is Despicable Me. I do feel like that first movie kind of held a bit more to it. Like, with the second movie, you had the emotional romance part to it that really worked. You had the more fun story. But this movie felt like more. And I don't know how to describe it, but every time I watched this movie as a kid, it felt more as an event. Does that make sense? It's hard to describe what I'm trying to describe here, but it's like I watched the second movie over and over and over and over and over again. And the first movie has more of a special plot, a special theme to it about parenthood and Gru getting attached to the daughters that had a more emotional theme to it and really felt emotional as you get to the third act. Vector is a phenomenal villain and he has really great motivations in here. The stuff that happens in the third act is really, really good. I really like the stuff that happens in the third act here. And just the overall themes of parenthood. My brother rewatched this movie recently, and my God, it is sad. It is so depressing. It is such a depressing movie because you have the daughters, which their whole backstory, sad. Everything that happens to them in the movie, sad. And like, I was like, whoa. I don't remember this movie being as depressing as a kid. I thought this movie was like much more uphhearted. So it has a more emotional focused story, more emotionally potent themes that I think work in here. So the movie just felt like more. Felt like more of a movie than Despicable Me 2 did. Despicable Me 2 has all the fun stuff. It even has the emotional core with the romance in there. But this movie felt like much more. It felt like they made a great movie. That's what it felt like. And that's why Despicable Me is number one. Thank you guys for clicking on this ranking. Let me know down below what is your ranking of Despicable Me movies. Stay tuned for an Alien ranking in the coming days. Make sure to subscribe. We're at 221 subscribers. If we can get to 300, I think it's possible by 2025. If we get to 300, I'll have another special video coming out for you guys. Go check out my 200 sub special if you haven't already. I did a try not to laugh and reaction to cringe mukbang because that's what people wanted apparently. Anywho, go do all that. Stay tuned for all those upcoming videos. And with that said, subscribe, join the Nerd Army. Peace out.